Jorge Joestar, Chapter 13, The Enemy. However many copies of Antonio Torres there were, this was no time to be fainting. I told Lisa what had happened with Jim Graham, and she said, "He pulled out his own tongue and internal organs? So he emptied out his body. He threw the insides into the ocean, but his back at base. So what's inside his body?" There was no doubt in my mind. Antonio Torres showed himself moments before Jim snapped. There was no sign of him after he crashed, but he hadn't just vanished into thin air like some sort of ghost. Had he climbed inside Jim while I was trying to snap a second photograph? "If that theory's correct," Lisa went on, "then the problem is, he retains enough to fly a plane and blend in at the base without anyone realising he isn't the real Jim. Antonio Torres was a mean kid, but not stupid. And if knowledge and personality are harboured in the skin, then that's a vital fact me and the other Hamon warriors need to know." Antonio had acquired a shocking new power to escape the pain of his mother's abuse. He could shed his own skin like a snake, give it to his batshit crazy mom. But for that skin to remain alive yet dead was... "Two other problems," Lisa said. "If he's wearing Jim Graham's body, how is Antonio Torres walking around in broad daylight?" Oh, right, I thought. Some of the gremlin sightings reported small 50-centimetre ones showing up in the day, but the 1 metre 30-centimetre ones only appeared at night or on cloudy days. "Second, we have an intelligent zombie who can hide inside a human being, allowing them to operate during the day. And by simple arithmetic, there's more than 16,000 of these. If they weren't messing about with planes for fun, but to learn the construction and how to fly them, that could be very bad. Zombies can move anywhere in the world very quickly, and there are a lot of dead bodies lying around right now. If the zombies brought those bodies to life, and those new zombies attacked the living, creating even more zombies, then the zombie empire would expand explosively, far faster than any pyramid scheme." A ripple of alarm went through the Hamon warriors around us. Lisa turned to face straight to the others. "Antonio Torres was on the Palma and knows about the Hamon warriors. He knows I'm one of them, and he's seen me come to get George, so I'm sure he's already taken action. Whatever he does next will be big. We have to move quickly ourselves, while keeping an eye on the English Air Force." Straight said, nodding. "But how can we fight zombies flying fighter planes? We can't lace the ship's bullets with Hamon, and Hamon doesn't travel through the air. Sitting in the cockpit, there's no way for us to touch the zombies directly." "Don't worry, George will shoot them all down," Lisa said. She wasn't smiling. Whoa, I thought. But then, boom! A huge impact rocked the ground. Reminded me that we were on a battlefield. A Hamon warrior came rushing in. "Enemy attack! The English are bombing us!" No sooner had the words left his mouth than the hallway exploded, blowing him away. Kaboom! A cloud of smoke and dust was left behind. The lights went out. Lisa! "George!" Our cries overlapped. I reached out my hand and found she'd done the same, and our hands clasped. "This way!" she yelled, and pulled me after her into a run. Thud! Boom! More explosions shook the underground headquarters. The ceiling fell and the walls crumbled as we ran past. "How did they find us?" Lisa asked. "They must have tailed us in the motorizing," I said. "Impossible! Stephen and I would have noticed if we were followed. I was watching for that the whole time." "Then you've got a mole." "Huh?" The underground passage led down to a cave that opened onto the ocean, and the cave had been modified into a harbour. As we burst out of the passage, Stephen waved his hand. "George, over here!" 2 hydroplane motorizings were floating in the harbour, and Lisa and I jumped into one. The engine was already running and the propellers spinning. The second we were in the cockpit, Stephen yelled, "You know how to fly it, right, George?" I threw him a thumbs up. "Got it! I've been flying a while now."
"Then we'll have no problem with those monsters. They're just copying what they saw real pilots do."
Damn straight. Stephen and I started our planes taxiing. We ran side by side through the cave, engine sputtering, 2 walls of water spraying up behind us. The moment we left the cave mouth, we started rising. I looked up and at a glance saw at least a dozen English Air Force Sopwith Camels whirling overhead, dropping bombs on the hidden base. "Stop it!" I shouted, but to no avail. Between the thunder of the bombs and the roar of our engines, my voice never reached them, and my friends flying those camels were already dead. I passed close enough to make sure, and the pilot's eyes were focused on nothing, his head twisted in an unnatural direction, a horrible smile on his face. Lisa reached up from behind and put her hand on my shoulder. "I'm fine. Thanks," I said, but I doubt she heard me. The pilots I'd fought alongside were gone now. Planes that had given me courage were just enemy machines now. But I was glad to know for sure. I accepted it, and it gave me strength. "Thanks," I thought. "You've made it easier to pull the trigger." Now I could focus on protecting the Hamon warriors. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat, my machine gun fired. One plane down and Stephen was starting his attack. The other planes noticed us coming and began fighting back, but they were no match for our experience. We took them down one at a time. No wasted bullets. Get behind them and put a few through their engine. Boom! They just gaped at the bullet holes. I mean, they were already dead. I flew between two camels, shooting out their wings. They broke up in the air and the plane started spinning. I dodged them and shot out the belly of the next camel. Boom! It exploded in the air and I dodged the fragments, did a loop and looked for my next target. I heard a machine gun firing behind me, shook off the zombie who'd had the nerve to shoot at me, did a quick turn, got his back and pulled the trigger. The bullets hit the body but no blood emerged from the holes. Instead, something came slithering up out of him. Antonio Torres, with no eyes. I didn't hesitate to send more bullets his way. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat. I shredded his flat body with bullets, pulverizing it. There was a smile on my face, but tears streaming down my cheeks. He bullied me daily, always come after me, killed my friends and attacked the heroes who could save mankind. And now I was gonna kill the shit out of him. Bang, 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 bang. Another zombie pilot came at me before I could wipe the tears away. Rat-a-tat, boom, rat-a-tat, vroom, vroom. The plane spiraled away, trailing smoke, and I had just made sure it smashed into the ground, when the other motorizing shot across my field of vision with a zombie plane on its heels, guns firing. I quickly dropped my nose, firing down at the zombie plane, and it blew up just as I passed it, which was a little too close for comfort. "Sorry, Lisa. You aren't hurt?" I asked, and turned around to find her eyes sparkling. "I'm fine. You're amazing, George. So strong." Lisa had never said anything like that to me. I went bright red, but the zombie I just killed had been a better pilot than me, a better shot, and had way more ideas for acrobatic tricks. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat! I shot out the wings of another camel and the pilot stood up in his seat, turned towards me, opened his mouth, and paper-thin Antonio Torres came slithering out of him, spread himself out, and came soaring towards us like a flying squirrel. "Jorge Joestar! You got a lot of nerve growing up before I did!" he shouted as he flew, and I broke up laughing. That was his big problem? Behind me, Lisa said, "Okay, this is my job." She stood up, and her skirt instantly turned inside out. As I gaped at her beautiful legs, she said, "George, when this war's over, let's get married." "Eh? Okay." "Huh?" "Come on, Antonio Torres. You remember me, right?" Flying Squirrel Antonio yelped. Lisa! Seriously? Bosa Blanca really is a pathetic, limp-dicked motherfucker!" It had been a while since I'd heard him sing that song, and it rattled me a bit. But I yelled back, "Says the undead flat dick! I knew you were always a hollow son of a bitch, but I guess you want to blame that shit on your psycho mom, huh?" "What the fuck?" Apparently mentioning his mom really ticked him off, and he bared his fangs and jumped to me, but I couldn't dodge. Just before his teeth sank into my neck, Lisa's thin arm reached down and grabbed a handful of his. "Let go of me, ugly!" Antonio really hadn't changed at all. He was just like he'd been when we were kids, and that was both dumb and kinda unnerving. Lisa said curtly, "I have no words to waste on you." "What? You?" Antonio began, but cracks began spreading out from where Lisa was holding him, and his body turned to dust, scattered away on the winds. Lisa dusted her hands off and sat back down. "5 more. You have enough bullets?" "Yeah, I had enough for 50. Bang, 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 boom, rat-a-tat, kaboom! My bullets hit the zombie planes, destroying their wings or engines. "The Germans are way better," I shouted, but of course they were. The enemy pilots were enemies, but they were also pilots, and I had respect for their skills. But I felt no such thing for these zombies. I was just pissed they were flying around in the English Air Force's valuable equipment. Fucking Antonio Torres, forcing me to shoot down English planes. Stephen shot down 2 as well. I hadn't been counting, but Lisa said I'd shot down 23. Shooting down that many in a single dogfight would normally make me a flying ace. Sadly, since I was fighting zombies instead of real pilots, my claim was invalid. Wasn't even worth bragging about. All I could think about was what a race to planes it was. The Hamon warriors were checking the wreckage, running Hamon through the pilots' bodies just in case, killing the Antonios. That was too easy, I thought. I'd spent years slowly learning how to fly a plane, then attacked the English Air Force and stole their pilots and planes, and that was the best they could muster. The only damage to the Hamon warriors had been in the initial bombing. Since their base had been underground, the damage had been limited. Antonio Torres must have known how good a pilot I was, so he should have known things would turn out this way. He was a crafty bastard, after all. So what was the point of this battle? Either a diversion or an attempt to delay me. Either way, the assumed intent of the attack, wiping out the warriors, wasn't the real goal. So what was? Then I remembered. That piece of shit had promised to kill my family. Lisa! I need a phone. I called my mother. Starmark Tradings, the company she ran near the London harbour. I wasn't panicking yet, but she'd seen them coming. A lot of planes just flew in off the sea. Calm down. Mum, get Penelope, leave London and get to the house in Westwood. Now. Whatever for, George? What's going on? All those planes were English. Everyone's getting ready to celebrate the return of the triumphant heroes. Triumphant? The planes are all in the States. They've got bullet holes in them, or wings that were clearly broken were patched together again. Planes filled with the war dead. I looked out the window. It was still light out. But in England? Is the sun out? It's not raining, but it's very cloudy. Mum? I understand. I'll go back to the Joestar mansion and hide in the basement with Penelope and Jonathan. Where are you? France, but I'm with Lisa. Oh, then you're safe. But the Hamon warriors can't fly planes, and what's flying into London are dead pilots. But they don't have Antonio inside them. If the sun wasn't out, they wouldn't need to let Antonio fly. If the dead pilots were still as good as they'd been alive, this time we might be in for a real fight. I'm gonna have to fight. Oh, your father fought his own battle, and he won. I'm sure you'll emerge victorious too. Thank you. I'll get there as fast as I can. Hurry, Mum. Yes, don't forget about me. I'm leaving now. I love you, George. I love you too, Mum. I hung up, then had an idea, and dialed another number. What? Jorge Joestar? If you're calling, you must be part of that huge squad in the sky, huh? What's up with that? Some sort of air show? Did England win some big victory I didn't hear about? The excited man who answered was John Moore Brabazon. He'd quit flying planes 5 years ago after Charles Roll's accident, but he was still working as an engineer in the city. Promise to believe what I tell you, John? I said. What? Of course. Don't be stupid. Those guys flying in aren't us. They're enemies. They're not even human. They're all dead. They've returned from hell to make the living like them. George, what the... Look at those planes closely, John. Recognise any of them? Those planes belong to dead men. They shouldn't be in the air. Dead men? Huh? What? That's Rupert Stiller's Mary. And David Seymour's Emma. Both of them were former Royal Aero Club members lost in combat. Mary and Emma were both Henry Farman III's, planes made in France. John found former friend after former friend in the sky. He'd been flying from the very start, so he knew a lot of fallen pilots. Joe Dearlove's up there too, he said. I could hear him crying. I kept my voice calm. They're all dead, but something evil has dragged our dead friends out from someplace very dark. John, they're going to kill Englishmen and eat them. Eat? What do you mean? I mean that literally. They eat living humans. They never do that. They aren't the friends you knew. Your dead friends are still dead. They haven't come back to life. Their bodies have just stepped out of their graves and into those planes. Ah! I heard an explosion on the other end of the line. It was starting. What the fuck? English planes attacking London! John, calm down and listen. You and anyone else alive out there have to fight them. I'll be there as soon as I can, you hear me? What the fuck? God damn it, stop! John yelled. He put the receiver down, so I yelled down the line. John Moore Brazabon, listen, this is in your hands. Get as many men together as you can, get them in their planes and start fighting back. Don't fuck around, just do it. They're already dead, and they won't die if you just kill them normally. You gotta annihilate them. This was a horrible thing to say, but I had to put it like that. George, is this really happening? John, I'm flying there as soon as I hang up. You fight and you live through this, okay? There was another explosion and the line went dead in the middle. I put the phone down, turned around and found the Hamon warriors listening, dressed for war. The main force is attacking England, I said. They're flying planes that were shot down, the pilots killed. They're English planes, so they faced no resistance until they started the attack. They're already over London, and it sounds like they just started firing. By the time we get there, their invasion will be well underway. Contact any Hamon warriors in England. If any of them have contacts in the army, direct them to fight back. There'll be plenty of zombies shot down who survived, so we need men on the ground as well. Tell anyone you know to run and hide. I'm heading off to fight. I'll knock as many zombies as I can out of the sky. Please save any survivors. We all ran. When Lisa tried to jump on the motorising after me, I said, Lisa, it'll be dangerous. She ignored me. She was still wearing a skirt, so I said, Sure you don't want to put some trousers on? She just laughed. Don't worry, I've been a girl a while. I figured out how to keep the contents of my skirt hidden. That wasn't what I was driving at, but this was Lisa. If she said she'd be fine, she'd be fine. Oh, but I'll take these, she said, stealing my aviator hat. Oh, you can keep this, she said, handing the goggles back. Fine. Stephen was climbing into the plane next to us. Honestly, that last fight had just proved how little combat experience he had. But I didn't stop him. Once again, Stephen and I sped out of the cave for the ocean and the sky. We took a quick look back at the condition of the surface after the bombing, and then headed west across the North Sea. The attack had been intense, but like I thought, relatively few casualties. It was an hour's flight from here to London. How bad would the invasion be before he got there? The dead were mostly flying planes lost in the war, but how well armed were they? If they only had the ammo they'd been shot down with, then probably not that much. But Torres wasn't likely to half-ass something like that. He'd already taken all of the English Naval Air Force headquarters, so he'd mostly likely stolen all the bombs and bullets he needed. This was going to be brutal. Hey George, Lisa said. I got a favour to ask. What? Can you give me a quick rundown on how to fly a plane? By the time we were almost across the North Sea, Lisa was flying my motorising. And other planes more or less work the same? Yeah, what you need to control them is always the same, and basically they all have a long body with rings and propellers in front. Got it, she said, looking over the instrument panel in a way that made me worried. What are you planning? Last time I just sat behind you and couldn't do anything, right? So this time I thought I'd go for broke. I got even more worried. Go for broke how? Whatever occurs to me in a moment. Oh, right, she said, and turned the stick over to the side, placing us in front of Stephen. George, take over. Eh? Lisa stood up. I scrambled into the cockpit next to her and grabbed the flight stick, and she moved, but not into the back seat. She jumped out into thin air. Lisa! She jumped with so little wind-up I thought it was accidental, but she tied the loose end of the thread in her scarf to the control stick. The thread was unravelling quickly and stretched from my plane to the air above Stephen's. Lisa let go of the thread and landed right behind Stephen. Stephen looked every bit as flabbergasted as I was. I quickly shifted my plane so I was flying next to him, and heard her shouting something at Stephen. Don't worry, she said, and then put her hands on his shoulders, brushed them gently down his back to his shoulder blades, gave him a push, and then pulled back from him, and Stephen's wings came out in her palms. Stephen looked surprised by this, but didn't appear to be in pain. Once the big white wings were both fully emerged from his back, Lisa said something to Stephen, tapped him on his shoulder, stood up and glanced over at me with a smile. I think she said something too, but it was lost in the roar of the engines and propellers. But then Lisa jumped out of the cockpit, ran across the top of the motorised past Stephen and onto the wing. The wind force had her leaning damn near 90 degrees and her skirt was going crazy, but she ran all the way down the ring and then jumped off and landed on my wing, skirt still flapping like crazy, and then ran up my ring back to me. I'm back, she said, and flopped down behind me. When I didn't say anything, Lisa explained. I figured Stephen should have his wings out. I hear that can hurt a lot, so I scattered the pain with them on and got them out for him. I see. Lisa's definition of going for broke was clearly beyond the capacity of my imagination. This gave me courage. "George, I can see it!" Lisa cried, pointing far across the sky. There were thick clouds covered the ground. The lower end of the clouds had a dull orange glow. They were lit by fire. London was burning. "Let's do this, Lisa." "Yeah!" I glanced over at Stephen and he nodded back. I looked forward again, and I could just make out the silhouettes of the fighter planes in the air ahead. The closer we got, the more horrifying the scene became. There were nearly 300 airplanes in the sky above London, all lined up and circling the town, as if drawing a massive magic circle in the air above the city. "I've never seen a battle like this," I muttered. Of course not. We were fighting the dead. Their tactics and strategies would bear no resemblance to those of the living. "I'm going to do what I do. You just fight how you need," Lisa said, putting her hands on my shoulders and standing up. "And like I said before, my skirt will be fine. Don't worry." I looked up and saw her grinning. "Don't you dare die, Lisa," I said. She was going to be my wife. She met my gaze. "I won't die. Don't you dare die either. We'll win here, go home and get married." "I'll hold you to that promise." "Just hold up your end." "I will." As we drew closer, some of the pilots saw us and began shouting. Their formation splintered and 10 planes turned towards us, but we shot past without engaging, just the two of us against this massive force. The more chaos we caused, the better. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba! We dodged fire from multiple machine guns and slammed into the centre of the circle, and several pilots were so surprised by us cutting across their formation, they accidentally turned into the plane next to them, crashing into each other. At least 5 or 6 airplanes exploded and went down all at once. For patched up wrecks, these planes were flying well. They must have zombie engineers to go along with the zombie pilots. I let out a roar, and the zombies responded with their own guttural shrieks, echoing across the sky. "Here I go!" Lisa said, and began running up the front of the motorizing. She put one foot on the ring and jumped just as an enemy plane came by. She grabbed its wheels with one hand and was whisked away from me. She must have run him on through the plane. The pilot howled and his body melted away. I circled for a moment, keeping an eye on her, but she scrambled up the side of the plane and slid into the seat, and without even a glance in my direction began firing the guns. Bam, 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 bam! Her first volley took out 3 planes. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Amazing!" I said, but I didn't have time to gawk. Lisa was clearly doing fine. So fine I'd have to kick things up a notch, or I'd wind up as baggage. I couldn't jump from plane to plane like she did, so I'd have to fight with the bullets I had. In other words, I had to aim carefully. So I forced myself to remain calm, move the stick rhythmically, concentrate. Rat-a-tat, boom, rat-a-tat, blam! No matter where I aimed, there were planes. So at first, every bullet I shot sent a zombie spiralling down. But this time, the rotting bodies had been in combat before, and they quickly adapted to my assault. I was sure I'd known the guy who turned to fight me, a Frenchman named Vincent Lecoeur, a Newport 17 with a picture of a dog painted on his belly. That was his, all right. The Newport had a max speed of 177 kilometers per hour, and he'd made the thing go 200, and even dead his thirst for speed was unabated, and he shot past my plane like a bolt of lightning. But I didn't chase him. I pressed on towards the centre of the magic circle. Rat-a-tat! Rat-a-tat-tat! Each and every time a grossly discoloured flesh bag crossed my sights, I shot them, and the metal box they sat in went down. The planes broke up and the zombies popped out, and as they passed me, every one of them was leaking all over and grinning, eyes rolling the wrong way. Out of the cockpit, they were all just corpses that hadn't died. Shit, I thought. At least try and fight back before you die again. But a group of zombies had seen me and formed a squad and were starting to chase me around. So I also thought, maybe don't try so hard, guys, you're dead. I knew I shouldn't be feeling sympathy for zombies just because they'd been pilot once. I shook off the 4-finger formation with a series of loops and aileron rolls and shot the zombie planes down. I didn't escape unscathed. A storm of bullets from a fleet of Sopwith camels hit the belly of my motorizing. Fuck! I shot the camels down from above, but Vincent Lecour's Newport 17 came at me again and hit my wing dead on. Direct hit. Crack! My ring split down the middle, but as it did, the other motorizing slipped in under me. Stephen! He waved for me to jump down. But, really? But if I stayed where I was, the plane would fall apart around me. Jumping into Stephen's plane was totally impossible, but I flung myself out of the cockpit and put myself at the mercy of the winds. Ah! Ah! As I did, the wing came off completely, and the motorising shot upwards and away, breaking apart. Stephen's motorising came up under me, gently catching me in the rear seat. "God damn!" I yelled, clutching the seat for dear life. I reached between his great right wings and slapped Stephen on the back. "Thank you, Stephen."
Glad that worked. You're really something, man. It's all I can do to run.
"But you've done all right at that."
Yeah, but I gotta fight a little here. You take the plane.
"Huh?"
Look at her.
Stephen was, of course, pointing at Lisa. She was bounding from plane to plane, frying the zombie pilot, then pulling the trigger as long as there were bullets left. Enemy planes going down. Boom, 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 boom. And the next moment she was empty, she'd fling herself at the next plane over. Boing! Hiss! Bam, 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 kaboom! She was a fucking war god.
I want the freedom to fight like that,
Stephen said. He spread his wings and was off into the air. I turned around just in time to see him swoop in on the Newport 17 on my tail, yank Vincent out of the cockpit and drop him into thin air. Then Stephen occupied the empty cockpit, pulled up hard and sprayed his machine guns, shooting several other planes down. Crap, he was doing so well I forgot to stop watching. This was a battlefield. I put my game face back on. Watching Lisa and Stephen fight was like watching ballet. I wrapped my hand around the stick on my second motorising of the day and shouted, "Here I come!" The three of us moved as we pleased for the skies over London, decimating the enemy forces. Dogfight techniques were growing by leaps and bounds every day this war lasted. So there were tons of moves pilots who died didn't get a chance to learn. And it was great fun using all those against them. But even if they were dead, they were still good pilots, and bullets did hit my plane, and Lisa had to help me change planes another 4 times. Any time I was in trouble, one of the two would be there instantly. I was totally saved by them. But oh well. The last plane I had was a Fokker E3, one of the few German planes in the fight. I'd shot the German zombie in the head with a pistol, thrown his freshly dead corpse out, and then gone back to fighting a camel that had been on my ass for a while. The camel's pilot was Jim Graham. Judging by the way he was flying, Antonio Torres wasn't inside. He was still hollowed out. Stephen, flying next to me, asked,
"Need a hand?"
I shook my head. "Nah, I got this. I think," I said. But 20 seconds earlier, he'd shot down another camel I'd been flying. "Damn it, Jim. You're a way better pilot now that you're a zombie. Does being hollowed out make it easier for you to move?" I grabbed the Fokker's stick and yelled, "Let's try this again, Jim!" Jim's camel had been wheeling around as if waiting for me to get ready, but now he came hurtling towards me. I rolled to avoid the bullets and pulled the trigger. The bullets on the Fokker's machine guns timed to fire through the propellers without hitting them. Click. Click. What? They jammed? Shit. I looked front and Jim was grinning at me even though he was a zombie, and I got mad. So as we passed each other, I waggled my wings and hit Jim in the head with the wingtip, decapitating him. Splat! No blood came out of the stump. There was a huge hole in the cross-section, proving he'd been emptied out. There wasn't a single Antonio Torres anywhere in the skies over London. He must be somewhere else entirely, doing something else evil. I looked around and found the skies were quiet. Lisa had blown the last zombie away and brought its plane in diagonally above my Fokker. Then she hopped out of the cockpit. "George!" Yikes! I let go of the stick, held up my arms and caught her in midair. She was doing a very good job keeping that skirt from showing too much, I thought. She gave me a big hug and said, "That was incredible! George, you really have become strong. Look, the 3 of us saved the skies of London." I looked around. The clouds still glowed orange, but there were no more zombies flying. I could hear cheering. From the burning streets of London, I looked down and the zombies we'd shot down were being chased around by crowds of people. The Hamon warriors had arrived on the ground and were turning zombie after zombie into ash and smoke. "Looks like they're done over there too," Lisa said. I turned to look, and 10 English planes were approaching from the north, flashing their lights in Morse code to prove they weren't more zombies. Lisa could read Morse code, and she translated for me. "Good job taking back London. Thanks." When I saw who sent that signal, I almost wept. It was John Moore. "Sorry we're late. We decided to control the perimeter and keep them trapped in London." "George, should I say they give up too easily?" No, don't." As we passed each other, John and I grinned and held our thumbs up. But when he saw Lisa sitting on my knees, John looked surprised and mimed a whistle. Then Stephen came out from the Focker's shadow, ring stretched out behind him, and John's eyes nearly popped out of his head.
"Seems about right,"
Stephen said, laughing. "That was John Moore Brassabon," I said. "He's connected politically. Might be able to parlay you helping save London into a pardon." Stephen shot me a look.
"I knew you were innocent, but couldn't do a thing to save you. And you make an offer like that back? You're too good for this world."
I really didn't care about that. We're war buddies now. We both reached out our hands, and I shook Stephen's hand as we rolled the wind.
"Thanks, George. Thanks for saving England. Thanks for saving the world."
Tears started welling up in his eyes, and I thought he was overstating things. But we did win, and maybe we had saved England. And maybe we had saved the world. "The three of us did it together," I said. "Thank you, Stephen. And thank you, Lisa. Her arms still around me, Lisa closed her eyes, smiled and said not a word. Oh, I thought, this was what she did every day. Save the world.